Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us, and especially happy to have two guests from St. Albans town. You've heard me maybe grousing once in a while on my St. Albans city shows that it's been hard to grab the town folks, but here they are in person. Carrie Johnson, the St. Albans town manager, Jonathan Giroux, the chair of the St. Albans town Selectboard. Good to see you folks.
Good morning.
And hopefully down the road I'll see you a little more frequently, ideally, but appreciate the time. Carrie, I guess starting with I was going to say your days aren't exactly numbered, but months are numbered, but definitely retiring next year. Is that the plan?
That's the plan.
Is that a solid plan, or who knows?
It's a plan, hopefully. September 1st should be my last
boy,
day.
so about another year or so.
Yeah, 11 months, not that I'm counting, but it goes by pretty quickly.
Wow. And is that something you've been pondering for a while?
It is, actually. Decided that about 3 years ago, 2019. Thought it would be a good time to move on to other things, perhaps fewer hours a week.
So not exactly real retirement. You don't think you're going to be putting your feet up and reading books all day?
I would certainly like to do that more, but no, I probably won't fully retire.
Yeah. Anyway, Jonathan, the process for finding a successor to Carrie, is that starting a ways down the road, or?
It's going to be starting real soon. We put an RFP out for some hiring firms. Some of our national, right? One's in Ohio or Illinois, I believe.
Right.
That's going to be in front of us tonight, I think, to make the decision on who we're going to pick as a hiring firm.
Yeah, I should actually note, now that you mentioned that, we're taping the show on Monday, October 3rd, in case there's any huge news that breaks in St. Albans town after we tape and people are wondering why we didn't talk about it. So you're going to get going on this pretty quickly?
Yeah, it's already been in the works for
about a month?
Yeah, fair to say.
Well, that makes two. Of course, Reg Beliveau, retiring at Swanton, village manager there for a long time. I guess Enosburg Falls, you probably have met the new village manager in Enosburg Falls, Carrie, or not?
I have not yet,
You have
no.
So some changes.
COVID stopped a lot of our statewide meetings, annual meetings, but this year they're obviously renewing.
Yeah. Let's go right to the town hall. Talk about the big subject in St. Albans Town. You got a beautiful new town hall. I go by it pretty much every day, and again, you ran into the water issue, but I guess let's go. Again, you've got is this a definite date for moving in, or as definite as anything is?
It's as definite as it can be now. The building was substantially completed about a month ago.
Is that really? Just I thought it was completed months ago.
Despite what the rumors were that were flying around, you know, we were waiting for things like glass and molding for the front. They call it a storefront, the glass foyer front lobby. And some other things that just had to be fixed that took a while. There's some doors inside that were also delayed. But yes, so we did our due diligence. I think the select board and I met a number of times to talk about the water supply for the new town hall. And although our direction for a few months was trying to share water with the neighbor's well, that proved to be more expensive. So even though it probably wasn't received well, we decided to change direction back to using our existing well on the property. It is salty, so we ordered a reverse osmosis machine. Wow. That, according to the expert we are consulting with, Dave Chevalier, comes from California, so we're waiting for that part to come in. We need that part because Chevalier's has indicated they'll keep spare parts and better able to service that if they keep the same model and brand. With some other clients in this area. So we're not the only ones who've encountered this issue. So in a recent town hall meeting, DW, Jason Elwood, and Rachel Lombard, Rachel's actually a St. Albans town resident, have been guiding, and they're the project managers on this project, both inside and outside. And we met with them Friday. So we have a date now which is fairly firm of November 28th, a move-in date of the 28th.
Which is the Monday after Thanksgiving weekend.
It is. Yeah, it takes a little time because with a public building, we have to wait until the water service is in, then they have to sanitize. Mayor said it's unlikely that given the way the water flows in that area that surface contaminants would have gotten down over 600 feet deep.
Boy, what an issue. This has been
We learned more about water than we ever
Yeah,
expected to learn.
we also learned a lot
Okay.
about the soils down there. They're
That's
awful
true.
clay.
Yeah.
They can shift depending on the weight. That's why we had to bring in that lightweight fill. I think it came from Pennsylvania.
It did.
Really?
Around the bill, yeah, because
Wow.
because we had to bring the grade of the property up, and if we brought too much fill in, it could put too much weight in one area and make the building shift.
Wow.
So it looks like limestone chunks, but it's light. It's
It's called
very
gravel
light.
because it's a
Really?
combination of gravel and glass
glass.
and
Really?
and other products.
That's right. So sounds like a very expensive issue you're dealing with. How much did this kick up, or will this kick up the total price tag for this building?
We're still under budget, so I
Really?
want to
Even
calm
with the
everyone.
reverse osmosis?
Well, yeah, we had some contingency funds.
Yeah.
We are using a lot of those contingency funds, but that's what they're there for. The first issue that we used them on, though, like Jonathan referenced, was the soil issue, which they basically said there was a layer that had the consistency of toothpaste. So,
Really?
like if you put pressure on it, then it could settle unevenly and substantially. So we researched that for months as well. Our engineering and architect team helped find this solution, which worked and has worked. It's new to Vermont, but it's not new to the country or New England. I guess they used it in Logan, for instance,
Really?
which is in the middle of a whole lot more water than Lake Champlain. But so that issue was resolved, but that cost us a little time too. We stopped, paused, and evaluated what we needed to do on site.
But it still looks like you're going to still end up coming in under or not over budget?
Correct. Yeah, it's going to be close. We're not going to lie. We're getting close
Yeah, it's
with
right
that.
down to the wire, but at least we're not, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And for the
over
record, correct me if I'm wrong, this isn't property tax. This is all out of LOT, local option tax money.
Fair. Yeah, that's
Cool.
absolutely accurate.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, I guess the LOT looks like that was a good move some years ago, I guess. Huh?
Yes, our income from that is almost $1 million.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so November 28th sounds pretty solid for moving in then.
Yes.
Have there been any other, well, just supply chain issues, but any other issues with the building itself and the construction, or everything, it went pretty well construction-wise?
I believe
It
everything
went
was
pretty well.
good.
I mean, we started this in a tough time. Our meetings, our project meetings went remote because of the pandemic. And
Yeah.
on occasion, there was a few subcontractors that had some COVID or pandemic issues, and so that cost us a week here or there. But DEW did a great job along with French Freeman. That Jesse Robbins was our architect from there
Yeah.
to keep it going and keep this commercial project moving. They were on it on all of the supply and subcontractor.
It's a nice, like I said, I go by the building as a lot of people do, often. Tell me about the inside of the building. So what's in there? What can people look forward to?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a very efficient building. That's
Yeah.
what our architect said. It's a
What square footage is?
13,000 square feet, all one level. There's a huge meeting room, which we lacked, in our current building.
Yeah.
It can fit around 100 people.
Really? Wow.
And we can have trainings. We did buy some furniture to allow some tables just like this. Flexible, movable. There's another secondary small meeting room right off the lobby. It was designed such that when you walk in, we will have an open house. We can't wait to do that. But that if we had a really large town meeting, we could open these huge 6 panels of glass doors and use the lobby as overflow space. So it'll be fun. And off that lobby is 2 service windows, one for the town clerk and one for planning and zoning. And right off the lobby are public restrooms. So with 3 or 4 stalls in each one. So that's pretty exciting for us to have that kind of access for the public. And it's gonna allow us some more security. So we have that public section, but then we're gonna have buzzed-in access for anyone who wants to access where all the employees are. So we did take that into account where our departments, right now you can walk into the building and it's entirely open, but we just thought going forward we might want to restrict it some.
Will voting continue at Collins Pearly, or will you move voting down there in the future, or unknown?
I love your questions like
Yeah.
that. I think that's still a question that the select board and town clerk.
I think we've talked about it. The select board, I think, as of now, wants to try to move it down into the bay
Yeah.
at some point, as long as it works out and we can
Yeah.
get Anna on board with it, which I
Right.
think she wants it down there also. I can't speak for her, but
Yeah.
we discussed it before.
Yeah.
She definitely wants to move it down there.
So as a select board, again with the water issue and stuff, big, obviously a huge issue for you guys. Have the select board, have you taken a bit of a beating over this issue, Jonathan, or not too bad?
There's been a few interested parties per se, voicing their opinions. It's easy to play. I don't know if you
Hindsight's
call it.
20/20, as
Well,
they
yeah,
say.
it's easy to come in, because I do it to myself all the time. But
Me too.
it's us as a select board, we're only, we're doing this, basically as a volunteer to the town, to the town, and
Yeah.
we try to get, we hired a professional team to advise us, on what decisions we should make, and
Yeah.
whether or not it's definitely not the wrong one, and I don't know, given the location, if we could have made any better choices.
Yeah.
It's just that's the cards we're dealt with. We put it on the ballot where to put where to leave the town hall.
People
and the-
strongly favor
kept it in the
leaving
Bay
it in St.
Area.
Albans Bay
They
Area.
did.
and then we studied like some properties throughout the bay,
Yeah.
and we put it on the ballot to buy Jackie Brown's property. It
Yeah.
was, and then that passed with flying colors, and then we put the town hall building
Yeah.
on the ballot, and that passed too. So, I mean, you don't really want to go against your voters,
Yeah.
Sure.
And that begs the question: when you're finally out of your current veteran town hall, any interest? I'm sure you'd love to find a use for that building. Getting anywhere with that? Anybody? I talked to Jim Cameron. I know Jim pretty well, and talked to him just a couple of weeks ago at some length. And of course, he's busy with the city, the old courthouse, post office on bottom of Kingman Street. But I think he said maybe he had checked it out, but he didn't sound too eager to me to jump into the town hall. But anybody expressing interest at this point?
No one else. Actually, Jim has called us and
Has
stopped
called you.
in once, but
Yeah.
I think he was looking for
And
something.
I don't mean to speak for Jim Cameron, obviously.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Short term, he was looking,
Huh.
for the short term project, and we weren't even out of ours yet, so we couldn't
Right.
really
Yeah.
tell him when or what the interest was. We're having some meetings this fall,
Yeah.
asking for public comment about what people believe we should do with that town hall.
Yeah.
Sell it, renovate it.
Yeah.
So we're working on that. Actually, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. How old is that building?
It was built around the turn of the century.
Okay,
So
about the same as St. Albans City
Yeah.
Hall, I guess.
I found some typed plans,
Wow.
as it were. They were basically in paragraphs from the 1890s, 1895 timeframe.
Wow.
So it's very old. I don't know actually when it was constructed. But
Yeah.
I know they started talking about it then.
Well, I'm sure you can't wait to get into the new building. What about moving? I don't think I'll ever move out of my house because the thought of moving is so
Right.
horrendous. What
It's rough.
about the logistics of moving? How will you do that?
Well, we've given it a
Looking for volunteers out there?
No.
No?
Oh, that sounds awful. Because we did it, I feel like, in an organized manner. We actually have a formal retainage policy. I can't remember what we actually called it, but what records do we need to keep? What records do we keep digitally? What can we throw away? We have a couple bins in every department for shredding, getting rid of sensitive documents. But we're going to hire a moving company to move the things we're moving from Old Town Hall to New Town Hall.
Yeah.
We have somebody moving our vault storage specifically that deals in that kind of business. It's a very specialized thing.
Boy, that sounds like a fun job.
We're probably going to be closed for about a week. We anticipate
Yeah.
moving all of our computers and servers and phones that week.
So again, right before Thanksgiving?
Right after Thanksgiving,
Right after Thanksgiving.
probably, yeah. Because we all know some of us don't hunt, but the state kind of shuts down during deer season
Yeah.
time.
Actually, I guess archery season just started on
it
October
did.
1st, I guess.
Saturday.
Yeah, so we're going to hire some
Interesting.
professional movers.
Yeah.
Some of our file cabinets, our fireproof file cabinets, are 750 pounds empty.
Wow.
So, and we have those big, long, I think they were made in the 50s, that store maps, for instance. So we have some pretty awkward, very heavy, with things to move, and we don't have an elevator in that building, obviously. So.
Yeah. Boy, got to think you're looking forward big time to obviously moving into the new building, but it sounds like it's getting relatively close anyway.
It is. It is.
So a lot of
fun.
changes in the town these days. Again, probably the newest big news, just hired a new public works director,
We
Dave
did.
Allerton.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever met Dave, or if so briefly. I know his wife Sarah, a great librarian. I know Sarah well, but happy, good, and I guess a town resident even. Jonathan, happy with your new PW chief?
Yeah, I haven't met Dave yet. I'm excited to meet him. I'm excited what he has to bring to the town.
Yeah.
For sure.
Carrie, how many, you applied, I mean, you put out, you tried to get different candidates. I mean, obviously you put that out.
We
How many
did.
candidates did you get?
I believe 7. I think 7 applied.
Is that about what you would have guessed? Did you have any clue how many candidates would apply for that?
I really didn't know. I mean, this is
Yeah.
a very interesting labor market, and maybe not in a positive way as far
Yeah.
as a municipality goes, because we have a budget. It's often known, and we can't go out and get into a bidding war for employees. But
Yeah.
a couple people weren't qualified. But the decision was tough. But I did interview Dave. He's eager to start with us. His background is he has an engineering degree. He has a PE stamp. He has a degree in geology as well, and has worked privately, which is great, and for the state, but also most recently for the Department of Public Works in Burlington for a number of years, and then worked for Milton as a
In Milton
DPW
too.
director for
Wow.
5 years. So, he has a good deal of real world experience, but also just that practical knowledge, and to have an engineer on staff that can oversee and review our own plans is pretty fabulous. It worked really well when we had a stormwater person who also had an engineering background.
And I was going to ask you about, I'll get to that a little later too. And Dave Allerton has not started yet. When does he start?
He starts on the 24th of October.
So pretty soon. Okay.
Very soon. He had some previously scheduled vacation time, so he has left employment in Milton and taking a few days off, and he'll be starting for us.
How many employees in the PW department? How many other employees are there?
6.
Really?
Yeah, we have a number of plow drivers. Our routes are pretty short intentionally, so we can get through our runs in about 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Really? How many miles in the town to plow, Jonathan? Have you got that figure?
I don't remember.
No.
55.
No, Carrie's
roughly
got it, 55.
It's
Really?
a lot, and we
All
started
paved. Am I missing? There's no.
all paved.
All paved.
Absolutely correct. John
Okay.
Bluen did that a number of years ago.
Oh, God,
And-
I remember John.
yeah, yes, he did.
So 55 miles. Interesting. And again, your stormwater person, who I never met her, but and she left a while ago, or
Emily, her name was Emily
Emily.
Sharrington.
yeah,
She had helped. She was heavily involved in South Burlington stormwater utility. So
yeah.
when she came to town, her task was setting up and getting our stormwater utility off the ground, which she did. Explaining to a number of residents on a one-on-one basis, actually, for the past year and a half. She sadly left us. She lived in Moncton, and she got a job offer in Middlebury, which is right next door.
She was commuting from Moncton.
She was.
Boy, that's a
She was.
tough commute.
I mean, we had come to an agreement on she worked at home a couple days a week.
Okay.
Worked out really well for us. We're trying to be flexible.
Yeah, but boy, Middlebury, that sounds like a much easier job for her.
Yeah, it was. So it's
And are
hard.
you looking to replace her, to replace that position or not?
No, we're actually in the middle of reorganizing. So what we did, because we had a couple of positions open, was create a Department of Public Works director position. So that person will be head of Parks and Rec, the road section, just call it Department of Public Works, right? And stormwater. So that person, and Dave having an engineering degree, will help oversee that department. And ultimately, we probably will hire someone as well to work in the stormwater utility. Yeah.
And the stormwater utility, that's something you had to do. I know the city's, I guess, been dealing with that also, but that sounds like it's a big issue.
It is. I mean, the stormwater utility was started, broad strokes, because it's a more fair, broader way to pay for stormwater repairs. The feds and state said you shall do these things to improve your water quality and stormwater.
Yeah.
And if we had continued to just take it from the general fund, then anyone who's paying taxes would be paying for stormwater, but not nonprofits who still have utilities. Utilities, they pay water and sewer. This is just like your water and sewer bill.
Yeah.
You have stormwater needs. So the stormwater utility is funded by churches and schools, and who else that was missing? Any other nonprofit out there, including the state of Vermont, who pours some of their water onto us. So it's a more fair, broader way to get revenue for stormwater projects.
Speaking of departures, of course, Corey Perrin, Director of Operations for the town. Well, I would have bet money on Corey being your successor as town manager. Shows you what I know. But anyway, so Corey departed. Is he doing some consulting for the town?
He is, yeah. And I referenced to you before we started here that the labor market's tight. I mean, Corey, I think, started looking around and realized that he could make
Interesting.
quite a bit more money and probably be more in tune to doing projects, which I think he likes, in the private sector as opposed to replacing me.
Interesting.
So that's what he's doing right now. And he worked for us until, it still is part-time, finishing some projects.
And then, of course, outgoing state senator and stuff. That was another surprise to me. But again, what do I know? But certainly had a very successful political career and a young guy. We'll see what the future brings.
Correct.
So again, are you looking for another director of operations, or again, you're looking to kind of reorganize? Will that position not be?
I don't think it's going to be filled the way we had thought for
I mean, he
a
was
number of years.
essentially, I thought of him as assistant town manager. Was that
Correct.
pretty correct?
That is, his official title was director of operations,
operations.
but yes, he was the backup. But with these new director positions, we're also going to have director of community development. So that person would oversee planning, zoning, assessing. Our thought process was, as this labor market tightens, we're going to need to make ourselves leaner, but then still service every department. So that's what we're going to do as far as property services as well. So honestly, I think the thought process was, since I'm retiring, you have a couple new directors, let that new manager and select board at that time look at what our needs are for the next year or two. Yeah.
Jonathan, a lot of changes. The townspeople and stuff. Any concern you hear out in the town about, people are leaving. Just a lot of changes. Is kind of the way it is. But
there's definitely a lot of changes. No shortage of that. But I think Carrie's done a good job in managing, all the changes, what's happening. I like the way our restructuring is going to happen. That is going to be good. And when we get Dave on board and get him settled in with the guys, it's going to work out great. Yeah. No issues.
The old Public Works garage, again, thought, boy, I certainly mentioned this to other folks, but I got down, I love Kilcare. And for the record, I walked in St. Albans Bay Park, talk about a spectacular sunset last night. I'm talking Sunday, October 2nd. I conceded defeat on the second half of the Patriots game because I couldn't leave the sunset down at the bay. It was a spectacular sunset, although I did make it back for the overtime. But anyway, but kudos to you folks. I think whoever had the idea to hook in music with the farmers market on Thursday, I mean, who does get credit? Was that the farmers market people who did that? Because that was a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it was, and it's being received well. It gets
talk
more
about
popular.
A great crowd and stuff.
Absolutely, the vibe down there is fabulous.
It's great.
I think it was a combination of John Montaigne and Alan Maschera, former DPW director.
Okay. And John is still with us as
John is
town rec director, or is that
Parks and Facilities Manager, right?
Correct.
Parks and Facilities Manager.
Because in the summertime, that's more than a full-time job, but in the wintertime, we still needed someone to maintain and keep track of a number of our buildings. Yeah,
but no, kudos. I hit the Bay Park frequently, and again, the town does a great job with that. But what a good active summer down there, and appreciated having a couple benches out at the. Out of the Bay Dock. Sorry to see him go, but I guess that's what happens after summer. But it looked like
That's
they had
true.
a pretty good summer down there.
Did.
Anyway, so back to the Public Works garage site on the bay.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on the future of that site? I guess I lose
That's
track.
okay.
I was about to mention Coke. Boy, some of the weekends, nice summer weekends, are so overburdened with the boat access, which you folks obviously well know, with trailers just parked along the road.
Absolutely.
So boat access, that's one of the ideas.
That is, yeah. So we're likely going to be taking down that orange building after this winter.
Huh.
Maybe even the salt shed, but no one's decided about that yet. We did have some soil analysis done on that property.
Yeah.
There was a small area of contamination. We, through now funding with the State Petroleum Cleanup Fund, have monitored it to the point where we can close some of the monitoring wells. They're not concerned about its spread. So that was the first step, kind of figuring out what was in the ground there, because there was rumors of much worse. And
So
now,
it doesn't seem like it's that bad?
no, it's not nearly as bad
No,
as
really.
people assumed.
Really?
So that was a relief. But so I think the town is going to now have to have some public meetings about what to do with it. A boat access seems most likely, but there's been no concrete work done in that direction.
Some conversations with the state about that?
Absolutely.
For
We've had
sure.
some. They're eager to find out what we want to do with it, but I don't think the board or anyone actually, Parks and Rec, has further investigated that.
And of course, the marina right there. It sounds like the marina seemingly had a pretty decent summer,
That's what I heard.
business-wise. That's what I heard. Yeah. What would you like to see at the former Public Works garage? Does a boat access, Jonathan? Does that sound as good as anything?
Yeah, I would be for a boat access there for sure. I spend past couple of years I haven't spent much time on the water, but I usually do.
Yeah.
But that boat launch on Hathaway Point is always plugged on the weekends.
Yeah, it gets pretty wild out there.
Yeah, parking down the sides of the road, and
Yeah.
I get a few complaints every now and again.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully it can be turned into a boat launch. But we'll see what the community wants, what the taxpayers want to do with it.
Yeah. Was there any thought given to putting the new town hall on that site, or were you just put off by soil issues? Was that given some thought?
We did look at it.
It was due to wastewater capacity, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were asked why we didn't use, say, the existing systems there, and that they both were failing. And most people know if you renovate, it costs you more than building new.
Yeah.
But we still like the spot. I mean, we're in the process of getting a permit to do a permanent walkway from that facility to our new facility,
Oh, yeah.
so that we can use it for overflow parking, which would be a good mix, even if it was a boat launch, right?
How much parking have you got at the new town hall?
I used to know that number. I thought it was 20.
Because so there's not a ton,
23.
so you definitely
Right.
overflow parking would be of use. Sounds like.
I mean, we
something.
talked about that right from day one, because I think somebody mentioned it,
Right.
and we said, how are we gonna get parking in to meet the setbacks and everything? We said, well, hopefully we can use the existing DPW for parking.
That would seem to make sense. Wastewater, is the town giving some thought to a wastewater facility in the Bay Area? Hasn't that gotten some studying?
Yes, actually we are. We just finished amending our village designation, so we included the new town hall property. So we have a village designation for that area.
So that's expanded a little, just territory area-wise?
Correct. And
Okay.
we're actively, with some grant funds, studying the feasibility of putting a small-scale sewage system, indirect system down at the bay.
Interesting. Probably, have you got a rough price tag on that, or is that?
No, that's what this feasibility
Okay, that's
study
what you're-
should give us, both, is it possible? If it's possible, usually it comes down to money, right? How much, anything's possible, but is it feasible, right? Because the ratepayers are only gonna pay so much for that utility.
Well, I can flash back to the good old days talking about funding when St. Albans City, I'm probably going back to, maybe circa 1980s, when the city did a major upgrade on their wastewater plant that supposedly would have been nice had that improved the bay water quality a lot. But I think at that point it was a big project at the time, and I think feds were funding that, 75% at that point. Because those days are long gone, I guess. But anyway, so that's something you're looking at. And that brings to mind just city-town relations and the affiliation fee, which is kind of a thorny subject. I guess there was actually a bill in the legislature. Was it Lynn Dickinson, in fact, the town's rep?
I think Corey Parent helped push that along.
I think Corey, right? I believe Corey, Senator Parent, did also, and that bill didn't make it. Didn't go too far, but
it did not. No, it certainly started to get some interest, though.
Interesting. And at this point. Again, I hate to think how much the city and town have spent on litigation over the years. There's no litigation currently on water sewer services that town's paying the city. There's no litigation currently.
That's correct, right. There's no litigation.
Jonathan, do you hope the affiliation fee? It seems like a lot of folks in the town are not happy with kind of the latest installment of the water sewer issue. Any thoughts on that? Or you know?
Well, that's a sticky subject for sure. I don't like the affiliation fee.
Yeah.
I don't know who would, except for the people that receive it. But with that being said, I'm just going to leave that situation alone right now. There's some stuff going on, but we'll just leave it alone as far as that. I've always been a big proponent of water and sewer for the town, like to have something, whether we get with the city and have it together or have our own, like the town needs to have something. It's 2022. I think it's time that we invest some money.
Yeah. And certainly, I mean, the city council and town select board would get together once in a while, but these days, certainly no joint meetings. I mean, there's no ongoing discussion about that issue at this point.
We're not having any joint meetings about that right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, going forward, hopefully there is some resolution, but we remain displeased with the fee.
Yeah. That doesn't affect too many. I mean, it's not affecting too many people, isn't it? Is it in the town?
Up to 30 something now, I think.
Is that right? So
I mean,
it's still
3 to like 31.
Correct. It's not necessarily the number of people, but the amount of the charge, right?
Yeah.
Because it equals our tax rate. It's close to our tax rate. So
Yeah.
if you're paying that, you certainly don't think it's insignificant.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have an end, right? It goes on into perpetuity, at least with our mortgages, as high as they are, after 30 years, it should be done.
Yeah.
So there's still some work to be done there.
I think it's fair to make the point, again, that, as you said, Jonathan, a sticky issue. That's probably a good way to put it. For the record, though, for people who just say, why can't the city and town get together on that issue? City and town on other matters seem to do pretty well. Sounds like Public Works Department always can do with each other pretty well. So there's certainly, certainly on some issues, the city and town seem to do pretty well.
Many issues. I mean, we share a library. That's seamless. No one talks about it. It's a great library.
Yeah.
Our fire department works together.
Our fire department
sounds like,
back each other up seamlessly as well.
Yeah.
We participate in a lot of rec programs. Our town residents are sometimes, I think, outnumber city residents in some of those rec programs.
I mean, even our DPWs work together. I think
Correct.
we borrowed some equipment from them. From time
That was
to time.
another question. Speaking of recreation, Jonathan, do you regret in retrospect that the town didn't get together with the city with the, $5 million community swimming pool?
I voted for the pool, Richard. I'll be
You
quite
voted.
honest with you.
Don't blame you.
And I wish we could have been partners on it.
And it was a close vote in the town,
was
decisively
very
approved in
close.
the city, of course, the first time and the second time, and narrow defeat in the town.
Yeah, very close.
Anyway, sounds like it got on. I'm not a big pool person, although this winter I may jump in there, but it sounds like they had a very good summer. And the bubble, I have to walk in there one of these days, but it sounds like it's off to a good start.
Yeah, seems so.
It does.
The Sheriff's Department, of course, providing coverage in St. Albans Town. The Sheriff's Department hasn't been too much in the news lately with the controversy about John Gristmore. But anyway, given that controversy, whatever, you comfortable with coverage you're getting out of the Sheriff's Department in St. Albans Town, Carrie and Jonathan? Does that seem to be working out pretty well, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think Roger's doing a good job with the coverage. throughout
Staffing,
town.
of course, an issue for
yeah.
everybody, including, I think, the sheriff.
Yeah. Well, when you get, what's this, year 2 now? I think for the sheriff.
It's a year.
Year 2.
Yeah, just started year 2 on July 1st,
So,
I guess.
a new broom sweeps clean for one thing, but they do. You can see they're out quite a bit. Like I see them on the weekends all over the place, and it seems like because I think it's due mostly to COVID, but you see them parked in certain areas throughout the town.
Yeah.
I think complaints go to Carrie and go to Roger directly, and then he places people because you see them, different spots, and sometimes they surprise you. For sure.
And that contract, how many years on that contract with the Sheriff's Department?
We had it very similar in structure to the last three, but so it's a 3-year initial term with 2 1-year extensions.
Yeah.
So that would put us at the end of June 2024, where the 3 years is up.
Interesting. And it sounds like you tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like the town didn't have any particular beef with St. Albans City PD coverage for years. Sounds like it just came down to a money issue pretty much on the last contract, or is that not the case?
No, it was money, and I think at that time culture. I think that current select board and I were wanting more mental health crisis team awareness, and in the interview and many comments from the public after, for 2 reasons we chose to go with the sheriff at that time.
Yeah.
And the sheriff department, as they stated before we hired them, have a mental health resource team or crisis team. I can't remember what the acronym is. So they've handled people with compassion, but yet firm. We had an animal control issue with a farm, someone who had horses that was in the news. And they worked with state agencies and state veterinarians to very compassionately remove those animals, and work with the owner who was, it was just a sad situation. But they did it, I think, in a professional and compassionate way.
Yeah. So that coverage sounds like you're pretty comfortable with the Sheriff's Department's efforts then.
We're comfortable with the coverage right now. Yes, absolutely.
Northwest State Correctional Facility. Do you have any dealings? Do you get any updates about what goes on over there? Just it's a pretty significant entity in St. Albans town. And of course, I love how Swanton gets a credit or blame for it. I'm sure that really makes the folks in Swanton happy, who of course turned down I thought it would have been a good idea, the prison work camp issue. Remember that?
Right,
maybe 10 years or so ago. Ironically, they turned that down, but every other reference I see to Northwest State, it's in the town of Swanton. Of course, it's in St. Albans town.
During COVID, I remember thinking, they gave Swanton that credit, but then somebody from Swanton must have corrected them. But
do you get any info coming? Yeah, that's kind of.
We used to get more.
Wasn't there a
info.
liaison committee for a while?
I don't remember that. I've been here 10 years. I did talk to Greg Hale a lot, who was a town resident. I think he was moved to another facility, or maybe in charge of a couple, or supervising a couple. So we haven't had a lot of contact lately.
We used to get an email.
We used to get quarterly updates,
actually.
Quarterly updates.
Yeah, so that's a good question.
Nothing
I'll have
these
to
days.
follow up on that. They called. They used to call us, and they would if there was something significantly wrong in the area.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we've had no alarms like that, but they haven't given us some reports in a while.
Yeah, I've been around quite a while around here. Boy, in the old days, security, of course, was just a big issue. Of course, it started as the youthful offenders facility, but it sounds like at least security in recent years, maybe even decade or two, it sounds like it's been pretty solid out there.
Yeah,
anyway.
They're a good partner.
Yeah.
For the most part, we don't have any issues with them.
Yeah. They have their own wastewater system at the prison, do they? Yeah.
They do. It's a lagoon system. For fun, actually. One time myself and Lynn Dickinson and I think David McWilliams went on a little tour.
Oh, really?
So we got a tour of that plant, the lagoon system, and the city system. And I think South Burlington had just put up a new system.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is actually.
Boy, I'd be remiss to talk about big news in St. Albans town in this area, Beta Technologies.
Yeah.
Boy, that sounds like, to me, it's the biggest economic news around here in a long time, unless I'm forgetting something.
No, it's fabulous.
So again, they're going to set up shop for batteries at the old Energizer plant, or part of that.
Correct. And we're going to be part of, 3 major buildings or investments. They're part of the reason that Highgate Airport is expanding, I think.
Yeah, the big news in the Franklin County State Airport in Highgate. Yeah, that could be in the future. Big news up there. So we're in the middle,
South Burlington, they've invested quite a bit of money there. And
yeah, it's
pretty exciting.
So that sounds like just extremely positive news, I would think, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What'd they say, 170 jobs up to?
Yeah, I think it'll take a
start.
while. Of course, I've talked to Tim Smith, whose day job, of course, Franklin County Industrial
Right.
Development Corp. But no, that sounds like very big news. Any other news of note? Any news of note coming out of the St. Albans Town Industrial Park these days?
I don't think so right now.
Yeah,
I think there's a couple of people that were in the process of getting permits. But.
Yeah, down by Ben and Jerry's.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
There's one.
Boy, labor shortage. You've kind of touched on it. Boy, labor shortage. I mean, Tim Smith must have nightmares about this every other night. I would think. It just seems like everybody is just hurting for help. And again, you talked about the applications you got for PW director.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the old days, you think you would have gotten many more applications? Is that maybe affecting, things on the municipal level also?
I mean, I don't know about in that the position we were looking for was a pretty unique skill set.
Yeah.
We did have at least I have one spot open in our crew, our DPW crew, and I got quite a few applications for that actually.
Yeah.
We tried to position ourselves in the position of offering a decent wage, and so we got quite a bit of interest on both. So that position is like a laborer, plow truck driver, that kind of issue. So.
Jonathan, you note that in your own business and stuff. Are you doing okay? I realize it's not a huge business, but it seems like everybody's looking
I'm
for.
in the process of hiring someone.
Really?
I'm just trying to figure out the work, all the insurances and everything you got to add on to it. I'm not a trunk slammer. I'm a legit business. So if you want to hire an employee, you got to pay all that stuff, and it drives your rates up. So you gotta watch what you charge versus what you spend. So. There's a few guys out there, but it's kind of like the town. Like, the town pays pretty decent now compared to what they did 5-6 years ago. I mean, we increased the rates to get, not better quality, but to actually get applicants because you wouldn't get anybody to apply for $17 an hour to be on the DPW
Or keep
crew.
who we have.
Keep or retain help.
Yeah.
That's the other issue, is retaining help because it's a employees market. They can. We had a list presented presented to us at $28 to $30 something an hour.
Wow.
I was like, this is where we could go.
Right.
You feel the town's pretty competitive in what you're paying? You don't tend to lose many employees to other towns who pay better? Feel the town's pretty competitive?
I think that we are right now.
Yeah.
It ebbs and flows. Actually, it's scary. It's always fluid. It seems to change every few months. But and for us, we're starting our budget process. So, in this fall, we're trying to predict what the FY24 budget's going to look like.
Right.
But things have changed so rapidly in the last 18 months that it's kind of scary for me. I don't know what to do exactly going forward. Right.
Any major issues coming up March town meeting for the vote at March town meeting at this point? Anything out of the ordinary coming up, Jonathan?
I don't think.
I don't think there is. We're going to start looking now that we have the two most necessary infrastructure projects done. What's next? I think sidewalk path infrastructure is near the top of our list.
And again, this is from SATEC out to Collins, Purley, and beyond, or
just that we actually have a
sidewalks in general.
Right, in general, we have a plan. So I think now the interest is looking at where we want to go. Right, we can probably only handle one big project and a few small ones each year.
Yeah,
so
there's one on. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's one on Route 7 South.
Mm-hmm.
From like Prospect Hill down to like where the new veterinarian place is, somewhere's there.
So this, small projects like
different
that
spurs
will connect some things because we obviously surround the city, so we'd like to start connecting some of this infrastructure. We have a study going on, a significant one, trying to connect the feasibility of going from the complex to Hardack, and then from Hardack to the rail trail.
That'd be great if you could ever pull that off.
Because those of us that travel that road see people walking on it now, and it's not really safe. So that's one of our biggest pushes right now, is to try to connect some things that are so close. Like that last mile with internet.
Yeah.
We're at that stage with our sidewalk infrastructure, and so we have this local option tax that, in a really comfortable way for taxpayers, paid for infrastructure, bricks and mortar infrastructure, can now pay for something like that. Or it could go towards another also water sewer.
Talking about money, ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Act money. How much did the town get?
Well, we've gotten part of it now. They're kind of parsing it out. We've gotten $1.3 million out of around $2 million that we're going to get.
So another 700,000 supposedly coming at some point.
But in hand, we've already got $1.3 million and change. And
has that been allocated or?
No, it has not.
Not at all.
And the federal government really was, I think, for the first time in my almost 20-year career, is making it fairly easy for communities to spend it on something.
Really?
They've expanded what you can use it on. It doesn't necessarily have to be spent on broadband or water and sewer, because we did a designation this spring that allows us some more latitude on those expenses. What we will do is likely have some more meetings, though. We're going to have some public meetings and request public comment on what the public believes we should use that ARPA money for. And then, we'll take those comments along with some planning advice and figure out what to do with it.
Jonathan, have you got some thoughts on that? Anything you'd especially like to see ARPA money go for?
I'm a big water and sewer guy, to be honest with you. I'm a big, I live down in the Bay Area, so my water is, I have 2 treatment systems in there.
Really?
The whole, sulfur and hardness. But I think the town really needs some water and sewer, down in the Bay Area would be really good.
Anyway, so that sounds like that issue will continue to get attention. Fire department, seems like I've heard at times the town was pondering or at least thinking about maybe having a satellite fire department station on the north end of town. Is that a subject that gets any attention or not?
Well, you're correct in that it's been talked about. It hasn't been actively talked about in the last 4 or 5 years.
Is that right?
Well, we try to keep our staff lean, so we only have so much staff that can do the work that's really busy and also add a commercial construction project on.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's next. I mean, our needs are being met right now, especially with the city backing us up and vice versa. So that's on the table, but it's not at the top of the list.
Pandemic issues, are they? It seems like someone in the Biden, I guess the president himself said that was, finished with the pandemic and stuff. But how much is that? Not much of an issue. Do you hear much about that issue? Is it affecting town at all? Of course, it obviously affected you folks for a couple of years. You're back to regular meeting. Do you still Zoom? Right.
So I don't believe we have a lot of impacts right now from the pandemic.
Yeah.
I personally found it really difficult to manage both the public needs and that of our employees during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But we kind of transitioned into, we were closed for a little bit, including DPW and all of our office staff, but we have open meetings now. But one good thing that came out of the pandemic is that we continue to offer Zoom participation. So it took us a little while, and with the help of your photographers, actually, Joanne is great. We learned how to do virtual meeting access pretty well, I think, short of me making a mistake at our last meeting and locking us out of our Zoom meeting. But I realized my error there. But for the most part, if someone wants to participate and they can't physically make it to the meeting, they can participate via Zoom. And I think that's here to stay. We'd prefer you to be in person, but if you can't, for whatever reason, Zoom participation has worked.
So that presumably got some people at least paying some attention to you folks who hadn't been doing that before when they didn't have to physically
for a little while.
Bit,
It started out and then it just kind of there's nobody.
And typically, how many members of the general public show up for a selectmen's meeting? A few, sometimes no.
Well,
depending
we
on the issue.
We can say one if you count my wife as general public.
Is that right?
And the photographer.
So sometimes, typically just few, if any, people.
Right.
Yeah, Josh from the Messenger shows up, but usually, unless it's like a specific item on the agenda, they'll usually show up.
I guess that begs the question: is that because you're doing such an outstanding job, or because people just just don't care or whatever?
It's been like that for a while. Even when I used to come down and sit in the audience at the select board meetings, I think it was just me, Mr. Fairbanks.
Yeah.
maybe.
Maybe.
You know,
I mean,
it
I
just
think
doesn't-
you're right. We're hoping it's because we're doing something right.
Yeah.
And then when we ask questions like, what should we do with town hall? We might get 6 or 7 people.
Yeah.
So that's a big change, right? And so we pay attention to that feedback.
Yeah. Carrie, you've been town manager for how long now?
In St. Albans for
Yeah.
10 years, and,
Is that
and I
right?
was in Georgia for almost 9.
Wow. But 10 years for St. Albans Town.
Yeah, I've got the tenure record. I
Wow.
think, right now.
Well, so you've got the record.
I do, yeah. It wasn't a very high
I
bar.
believe Jim Fitzgerald had
Yeah.
the record before yourself.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't remember how long
Fitz
he
might have
was.
had it, but
Yeah, I talked to him about that. It was funny.
yeah, the late great Jim Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
So in your case, as municipal government, is it a pretty different ball game being town manager now than 10 years ago? I mean, more complex, tougher, or is it not changed so drastically?
It's definitely gotten more difficult.
Yeah,
I mean, unfortunately, right now it feels like some people assume things and sometimes incorrectly. There's an assumption that opinion is fact on certain occasions. Imagine that, right? So I'll just leave it at that. But sometimes I have to say, look, I know you might have heard that, but this is what we're doing because we don't have the time or the staff to really indulge in conspiracy, where sometimes around local stuff, I'm not talking big picture national things, but so we're just trying to do our job in the most efficient ways.
yeah. Jonathan, you've been on the select board for how long now?
It'll be 3 years, March.
Coming up 3
Yeah.
years. And so I guess we can assume your term's up in March.
My term's up in March.
At this point, would you assume you're running for another term?
It's still up in the air.
Yeah.
It's still up in the air. It takes a lot of time. I have, between me and my wife, we have 3 businesses going on.
Really?
So
Wow.
I'm trying to juggle that, and there
Wow.
might be a 4th. So very busy, to say the least. And I have a 8-year-old son at home. So.
Wow, sounds very busy. If you knew then what you knew now, would you not have even thought about running for the select board?
No, well, so I used to watch it on TV, and my
Okay.
wife said, "Why don't you go down there instead of just talking to the TV?" And not that I say that much, anyways, because I'm pretty quiet. But I think there should be more involvement from the community.
Yeah.
I wish there was more.
Yeah.
Because it's nice for the select board to have input from different people
Sure.
instead of just the same people.
Yeah.
If you can get people that have some good input and some good opinions and ways to do things, it's nice. As a board, even though we are very different, we're very well versed board. I mean,
Yeah.
from Jeff to Jack to Brendan to Brian. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a whole. We all have different occupations, so. I think it
You
makes
don't
it very good.
regret. Hopefully you don't regret having jumped into the select board for 3 years.
No. I'm probably gonna end up doing it again. Not that I have a lot of time, but if it depends, maybe nobody will run.
Yeah.
I actually was hoping
Interesting.
a female would consider running. I like that
Oh, you had
mix.
we
we
course
had
a couple women,
Yeah.
a couple very solid,
It's
fine-
good.
fine
It's
women.
good.
It's
It's good
good.
when you have a female on the board because, men kind of see things a certain way, and women they just bring a different.
They
And
do.
sometimes, I remember we'll be talking about something, and then Aaron would say something like, "Wow,
Yeah.
I never even thought."
Right.
We don't even see it that way at all. It's just a difference of opinion or a difference of view or whatever you want to call it, but. It's good. It's helpful. It
is.
really makes a strong board.
And who's other? So your seat's up in March. The other seat up is
Brendan.
okay. Brendan's.
Yeah.
Has he indicated any? Has he said anything about running again, or
Not too much.
realize it's a
No.
little early at this
Yeah.
point?
Yeah,
And he's got a
usually-
young family now to deal with.
That usually
Oh,
heats up in
interesting.
December,
Yeah,
Yeah.
January kind of time frame.
yeah. So, 10 years. My old friend Anna Borden, my former radio colleague, Anna's been town clerk for,
A long time.
long time.
I don't know how long actually.
I'm not even gonna. I thought. Yeah.
She was there before I got there quite a few
And
years.
it's her term up in March. I lose track of when people.
I lose track of that as well. Usually we
Anyway.
discuss it in November.
Yeah, but Anna's hanging in there. Sounds like Anna's done a fine job for the town.
Mhm.
Anyway, So pretty, even with changes, you still have always some stability, but you have had some changes. Another issue, didn't you folks talk with folks in Swanton Town about development issues up around exit 20? Anything of note? Did anything of note come out of that, or am I dreaming that up?
You're not dreaming it up.
No.
Just some informal discussions were happening between one select board member in each community.
Yeah.
They're still ongoing. I don't think anything's been finalized yet.
Yeah. Interesting. Down to about 2.5 minutes. Jonathan, you want to take anything we haven't talked about? Any issue you want to give a minute or two to here?
Just how the town manager form of government works. When I was not on the board and I was just coming to the audiences, I thought the select board really made a lot of decisions on the day to day, and how that's not true. The town manager handles a lot of that. Like in some of the community, they're like, well, you're on the select, but I'm like, the town manager she manages the town.
Did you even wonder, perchance, do we even really need a town manager? Doesn't the select board do all this, or did that never cross?
See, I didn't really know all the logistics of it, but the town manager does a lot. It basically runs the town. That's what the town manager does.
Yeah.
And we set policy and make bigger decisions. You know. And she always refers to us or asks us questions, or what do we think? She doesn't, she'll make the decisions on her own that she feels comfortable with, but she asks us from time to time.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you folks work together pretty well. Carrie, down to about a minute, anything, quick subject you want to talk about that we haven't touched on?
You covered them all right now.
Wow.
I mean, the one thing we are working on going forward is our budget. So we don't usually get a whole lot of questions about it, but that's a pretty big important policy decision the select board works on. So the 7 of us with Al Vogel, who's working
that's right. Al's
part-time.
kind of jumped back into the fray.
So we're building our budget for next year at this point. That's our next big project.
And you certainly, people can go to any select board meeting, but you do have a particular public meeting on the budget or two down the road, or just you do?
Well, it's our work session. It's pretty dry. I like it, but not a lot of people show up.
We're doing like a day long session this year instead of doing it like an hour before each meeting. We're just gonna get through it.
Very good. Hey, on that note, we'll leave it right there. Hey, many thanks. Nice to see you folks. It's been a while. I appreciate the time. Hope to see more of you in the future. Jonathan Giroux, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman. Carrie Johnson, the veteran, longtime St. Albans Town Manager. Thanks for your time. Thanks to producer Alan Cunningham. I'm Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. See you next time.